Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm going to be doing my mid-month wrap-up for the month of October, and it's been going really well. I've gotten a lot more books read than I thought I would have, and that's mostly in part to the Monster Mash Readathon. I really had a great time. I hope you guys participated or were able to get in some monster romances for October. I got a bingo on the hardboard. I'll try to remember to put it up here to show you like my bingo. I think I got 2 bingos on the hardboard, and then I actually blacked out like the easy board. So that one was easier because it had like the same prompt, like a shifter or whatever, like multiple times on the bingo board. So it was a little easier to black that out, and they weren't as hard as like some of the prompts. So I had a great time. I read quite a bit for that. So a lot of these are going to be for the Monster Mash Readathon, honestly. Right now, I'm filming this on the 16th, so that's the beginning of the novella readathon. So I hope you guys are going to do that. I've done the last 2 readathons and I had so much fun. So I would definitely recommend doing those. If you're interested or had any questions, you can reach out to me. But I know that Tiff Talks Pages has all the stuff on Instagram, you know, on her highlight. You can get all the prompts and everything like that for that. But anyways, I have quite a bit of books to talk about, so I need to stop talking and get this started. So I did read 20 books for the first half of October, so that's really good for me. Quite a few of these are novellas though, so that's why there's a little bit more. And I was trying to hit all these different prompts. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. The first book that I read was actually an ARC. I got These Two Wrongs by Julia Wolf. I read the first book in this series and I really enjoyed it. This is her Savage Academy series. And I read her Savage U, which was, and like the other one, I can't remember, it was like the high school, then Savage U, which is like the university, and then now we're kind of at like this private academy in Savage. So I've absolutely loved these by Julia Wolf. And so this one is the second book in the Savage Academy, and this is between Reese and Delilah. And I really liked this one. It had a very interesting setup. Reese was kind of a jerk or like very surface level douche kind of in the first book, so I didn't know if I would really like him. And he isn't likable at first in this book, but I actually started to really like him. So he is a fencer. I don't know if that's what you call it. He does fencing. I don't know if you call it a fencer or not. I know nothing about the sport, but that's what he does. And Delilah is actually, you know, one of like part of their friend group. They kind of just aren't like interested in each other or anything. She is a twin. She's a curvier heroine. She has an autistic sister that she kind of picked up everything, like kind of she broke up with her boyfriend, moved across out where they're at right now because it was going to be a better situation for her sister. And I just love that about her. Delilah is a very beautiful, strong, badass heroine. And Reese has like a lot of his own like issues and hang-ups with like his home life, which you find out a lot about. But they end up going to like kind of like this, I don't know if it was a weekend or some kind of trip thing with the school, and they end up kind of hooking up. She wanted to have like a one-night stand with him, and it did not go well. Let's just say he had no foreplay, didn't even look at her, and he basically just screwed her, finished, and like didn't worry about her getting off. And so she was like, oh my God, like that was horrible. So it was one of those. And so he was like worried that like, he thought it went good, you know, and he was worried she was going to be all hung up on him and try to talk to him. And she basically does the opposite. She ignores him at school, pretends like nothing happened. And he's kind of blown away, like, what the hell? And he wants to know why. And she doesn't want to hurt his feelings or have to tell him you sucked in bed. But he keeps pursuing her and wanting to know. And so she does end up telling him the truth, and she lets him know that, you know, he basically just screwed her. Like, I love it when the way she brings it up, like a fleshlight, like that's how he treated her. And she was brutal with her honesty, and I absolutely loved it. Like, and so Reese, instead of getting all defiant and like sensitive or whatever, he actually takes what she says and is like, oh my God, like I had no idea that that's what I was doing. And he wants her to kind of teach him how to be a good lover. So they kind of come up with this, like, it's almost like a lessons in seduction, but for the guy, which I found really unique and fun. There is this whole thing though, where her twin sister is kind of getting pursued by his like roommate. He's not his friend. This guy's like the douchebag of the school. He like uses women and all this kind of stuff, but he's like really actively pursuing Delilah's twin sister, who is autistic. She's very high functioning though, but she does have those, you know, she is on the spectrum and stuff. So he wants Delilah out of the picture, and so he basically offers to pay Reese to like keep Delilah distracted, and that kind of happened before they, you know, started doing the lessons and stuff. So eventually, of course, you know, she's gonna find out that he did do this. He had reasons, and they are valid and good reasons for why he needed the money and why he did what he did. But of course, she is a curvy heroine who has a very low self-esteem about herself and is down on herself. And so when that's going to get revealed, it's going to be really tough for Reese. And so this has one of the best grovels I've read in a book. I really loved the grovel. Reese really fell hard for her. Like I honestly feel like this is a he falls first too. And so he really has to prove himself to her. And it was devastating to see her kind of deal with those image issues, you know, with being a curvy heroine and always kind of like questioning yourself. So I found this book amazing. I really loved it. Just be aware that there is the abuse, physical abuse that Reese is experiencing at home with his stepfather. And then you do have some body image issues. Those are some trigger warnings in there. But I ended up giving this 5 stars, and it's 3.5 chilies. So absolutely loved it. I couldn't recommend Julie Wolfe more. Okay, so the next book that I read was for the Monster Mash Readathon. And I read The Black Lily by Juliette Cross. I'm trying to go through more of Juliette Cross's backlist because I absolutely loved her Stay a Spell series, and I need to start reading her older stuff. So this one was actually for like the vampire, that kind of prompt for the readathon. And this is the first book in the Vampire Blood series. And this did have an interesting setup. We have Prince Marius, who's like this head of like he's a prince of this vampire community. And we have, I think her name was Arabelle. And she's actually like part of this revolution or whatever movement against the vampires, because they had like a kind of a peaceful kind of existence. You know, they have the people that, you know, they drink from or whatever. It's like an agreement type of thing. And they're not supposed to be killing people, but a lot of people are showing up missing. They're being killed. They're being left and killed. And so her community is like done with it. And she has started this movement. And so she is actually going to go assassinate Prince Marius. And he actually has no idea that this is really happening. He, you know, wouldn't be okay with that. And so she ends up going to try and make an assassination attempt. She does get him alone. He's instantly like, it's almost like a fated mates feeling, because he's instantly sees her and wants her. And he's being kind of pushed to get married and all that kind of stuff. And he sees her, gets her alone, and she takes that as her opportunity. And she has like this special dagger that was made that would be able to kill him. She goes to stabs him in the heart, but she doesn't get it perfectly, so that she literally jumps out the window, has an escape plan. She's pretty badass, but she doesn't kill him. So then he has to go like chase her down, find out who she is. And she ends up telling him about what's really going on, and he decides to do his own investigation. So I really like this first book. It had some good intro world building. I don't know if I was totally into their romance. It felt very insta-lust to me, but that does kind of happen with Fated Mates. I still enjoyed it. It wasn't as spicy as I'm used to Juliette Cross getting, but it was a decent read. So I would be definitely interested in continuing the series. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and it was still spicy, so I gave it 3 chilies. It was a good one. So then I read King Cobra by Naomi Lucas, and this is the second book in the Naga Bride series. So I read The Viper, and I really liked it, but it didn't blow me away. This one I loved so much more. I don't know why. I just loved King Cobra. So King Cobra, he is actually, his name is Jacquot, and he was the one, in this world, we are on Earth, and humans have been off Earth for like hundreds of years. I'm not sure how long it's been, but they've been off planet, and they're actually in war right now with another species. The Naga are basically like ruling the planet. They're half human, half snake. So this is my snake prompt. And they are actually kind of in trouble too, because their women, female Naga, have basically abandoned them and left. They don't want to mate with them. They don't want anything to do with them anymore. So they're kind of in a bad situation here. And the humans end up coming back to Earth because it's safe for them to come back, and they need this tech that's on Earth that the Naga actually have. So King Cobra is actually the one that makes the deal with the humans, and that happened in the first one, to give them some of their tech, but they want their women. And so the women had no say in this. They were not okay with it, but they had 2 women. One of them was pregnant, and so she didn't get sent out there. But 2 women basically have to go get chased by Naga, because there's a lot of Naga, but only 2 women. And so King Cobra had already seen our heroine, Daisy, and he was already wanting her. This is also another type of like fated mate, like they're like mates, you know? And so he chases her down. He eventually does get her. She was attacked by another Naga and actually almost killed him. It's really hard to kill them, but she fought her way. He was like about to like just kind of rape her. And she fought her way away from him, and our King Cobra basically finds her and takes her to his nest. In the first book, the guy had like a very, like, it was a very primitive type of nest. It wasn't like this nice thing. This Naga is living literally in a mansion up in the hill. It's like old human's mansion. It has really good tech, riches, female, like human clothes. It's got robots that keep it clean and running and all that kind of stuff. So they kind of have a different setup. So in these books, I kind of get irritated with the women because they're like trying to fight it. And it's like, you're just accept your situation. But I really love this one because this one, the female did not fight it as much. And there's a lot of stuff going on where she's trying to figure out, report these men for doing this to them and figure out what's going on. And also she's worried about the other human that was left behind because another Naga sees her and wants her. So she wants to, like, she's worried about warning her and all this stuff. The really funny thing is the King Cobra is like the biggest one. So he's like gigantic, and it's a little bit too big for her. So their sexual stuff got a little weird, but fun. Just trying to figure out how they were going to be able to make that work. So I ended up loving this. I gave this 5 stars, and it was 3 on the chilies. I loved the King Cobra. I loved his character. It was just a really sweet. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so then I read Obsession. This is the first book in the Mate games. I kept seeing this everywhere. I know there's another booktuber that like really loved it, I think. And I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was okay. This is a reverse harem paranormal, kind of like, you know, an academy type of setting. So it was hitting a lot of my prompts. And this is by Lorraine and Meg Ann. And this is Sunday Fallon. And she is going to the school. I think she's 23, so she's in her like, so these, it's like she's in her like mid 20s or younger 20s. And she's going to this academy for like people, you know, like all paranormal creatures. So there's, and then she basically runs into her like mate, that she was a shifter, but she hasn't been able to shift. So she's like a latent shifter, but never been able to become her wolf. So she actually was supposed to be mated to, what's his name? Kingston. But she basically rejected him because she couldn't shift. And so she didn't want to like do that to them. But he took it very personally because that was his mate. She runs into him at the school, and so he's kind of like the bully guy because he's pissed. And then you have Noah Thorne. He's like a vampire prince. He's kind of been stalking her. He's obsessed with her. Alec Nordston. He's like kind of like a demigod, I believe, and they kind of bring him up like being like kind of like a Thor. And then you have Caleb Gallagher, and he was a former priest. So he's like he's like kind of like a teacher at the school, and he was turned into a vampire. So you have, these are her guys that she's supposed to be, you know, figuring out who she's going to be with. And I listened to the audiobook, and it was really well done. It has like a full cast. And so the audiobook was excellent. Like based on the audiobook, it'd be 5 stars for the narration because it was really well done. Some really amazing narrators. I just couldn't like the story was so disjointed and bouncing between here and there. There was no like true good world building. And then my issue also is that the heroine comes off like she's in high school and she's 23. And so she just came off very immature. Again, this is a series, so obviously it's like, this is what they always do in reverse harems, I feel like, is they'll split it up among multiple books. So, I mean, you're not getting the full story, obviously, but I just thought we needed a little bit more. She does get sexual, but it's mostly with the vampire prince, and like, that's it. And I just wanted more world building. It was just kind of like we're thrown in there, and it was like all over the place. So I just kind of didn't connect to the characters. I didn't really care. So I gave it 3.5 stars. It did have some good spice in it, so I did give it 3 chilies. Again, amazing audiobook. So I don't know if I'm going to continue. I may, but it's probably going to be a really low priority for me. Okay, so the next book that I read was another arc. This was Haven by Bella Matthews. I do want to preference this by saying I've never read a Bella Matthews. I have a problem. I sign up for arcs where I think it's like a standalone in like a series, like a companion series or something, but it ends up being like one of the last books in the series, and I don't really know all the previous books and all the characters that I brought into it, and that's really tough when it's the last book. So this is book number 5, which I think is the last book in this Defiant Games series. And so a lot of the stuff that was brought in this, I think it's like kind of like almost an epilogue book where it was like a closure to all these characters. They had like such extended epilogues on each of the characters' like lives. And so I think I would have loved this even more if I would have actually read the series beforehand. So this is on me because in no way is it on the author. Like I came in reading book number 5 and I didn't know any of the other characters. And I feel like everybody's reviews were just blowing up about how it was a perfect conclusion. So I think like if you started this from the beginning, you would love this book. But what this book is about, this is Brandon and Ashlyn, and this is basically like a second chance romance. They met really briefly one night at like a frat party, and it was the night before she was about to go to the Olympics. She was a figure skater, and she was about to go to the Olympics the next day, and so she ends up just hitting it off with him, and they talk a lot that night and everything, and they kind of switch numbers. She goes off to the Olympics and kind of shit goes down. She had a pretty abusive coach and a lot of stuff that was going on with her best friend who was his daughter. And so a lot of stuff goes on in Olympics, and kind of something happens where she ends up kind of ghosting him, and they never got together. Then all of a sudden she was married to the owner of his football team. So like they've kind of been in the same circles and known and like seeing each other and stuff, because she kind of is accepted into this. She's like her found family. She ends up having a kid with this husband. He dies though, like really early, like right away in their marriage. So I think he's been dead for, I can't remember how long. But, she's never like basically dated or had sex with anybody else. So Brandon is actually in the NFL, and he's kind of coming to the end of his career. He's like he doesn't want to keep pushing through playing this. He's not really feeling it anymore. And he's constantly has to see Ashlyn because she actually, she doesn't own, but she married the owner kind of thing. And he's very close with her daughter and all this kind of stuff. And basically they get stuck in like an elevator one night, and they kind of finally say the things they've always wanted to say and kind of confront it and start getting hot and heavy in there. And so that starts them trying to be together. But Ashlyn has a stalker, and so he's also trying to protect her and be there for her and trying to figure out who this stalker is. Honestly, I knew who the stalker was immediately, but it didn't detract from the story or anything. I thought this was really, really sweet. A really cute second chance romance. I gave it 4 stars, 3 chilies. I didn't give it full 5 stars because honestly, I think a lot of it had to do with knowing all the other characters. So I think if you had read the previous books, this book would probably be a 5 star. So I still really enjoyed it though, and I'm interested in reading more from this author. Okay, so continuing on to the Monster Mash, I read 4 Psychos. This is by Kristy Cunning, and it's the first book in the dark side. This is like a novella. I actually listened to this. It was on Anyplay, and I did not like it. This was a hit my ghost prompt, and it's also kind of a reverse harem, but like literally no sexual thing happens in this first book. So that was kind of, she's a ghost. She's like watches these, I think it was 4 guys. Yeah, 4 psychos, duh. Oh my God. Anyways, she's kind of like around them, and she'll disappear if she's like not around them. And so she's been watching them for years, and now out of nowhere, they can kind of see her. They're doing this kind of tournament. I don't know. I think I couldn't even, I don't even remember. I honestly didn't even care about what their mission was, what they were trying to do. It was very chaotic and all over the place. And honestly, none of the guys was like distinguishable. Like honestly, I couldn't even tell which guy was what. Like you have to separate the guys and make them have their own characters. And they were all kind of assholes. And then when she finally gets into like a physical form, like they don't even have sex with her. And they're like paranoid and like think she's like a spy. And it's just so like, I don't know. I did not get it. Like I ended up giving this 2 stars. And there is no sex in this. So that's not what I mean, I don't have to have sex in every book. But if it's a novella and it's a reverse harem type of thing, like give me the sex. So anyways, I don't really want to talk anymore about that one. On to my favorite book of this video, okay? I finally read Grimm and Barrett by Juliette Cross, and this was a 6 star for me. This is the last book in her Stay a Spell series, and I have been waiting for Henry's book since like the first book. I was so fascinated with him. I love the Grimms. Like, I think they're so cool. Their power is so different. And he's also like a Grimm, but like a necromancer. So he has even a different power that you get to see how powerful he is. But he's a very damaged hero because of what happened to him when he was younger. And so he doesn't really feel like he's worthy. Him and Clara is one of the Savoy sisters. And she's an orange. She's very like bubbly, happy, sweet, beautiful soul. But she has been like pining for Henry for so long, and she's done. She's done waiting. She's going to make the move, and she has a plan to get him. And so she's kind of setting that in motion. She has a book club, And he's like her number one fan, which she finds out. So she shows up at his house with like, I think muffins or something, and basically invites him to her book club. And he says yes. And so it's really cute. This tattooed, like, swoon-worthy, like, kind of broody Grimm is at this book club with like these older ladies. And it's just funny. And so that was like step one, and she's kind of moving through this plan. He has been pining for her. He just honestly was not getting every hint that she literally threw at him. Like, he wasn't getting it. So what I loved about this was it wasn't like this angsty waiting for them to get together, because we've been waiting for multiple books for this couple to get together. So we've already had that, like, wanting them to be together. So that wasn't the issues in this book. Like, they get together pretty quickly and they're dating and it's so adorable. But you have other side plots obviously going on with him being a Grimm and everything. And so I'm just not going to bring up any of that. I'm just going to bring up some of the things that I loved. So one of the things I loved was Juliette Cross basically like putting in some of her favorite historical romance stuff, and it just made me giddy. Like, honestly, I've listened to Juliette Cross and Justin's podcast that they do, and I freaking love it. So like hearing her talk about Lisa Kleypas and Sebastian St. James, I know Juliette Cross like loves that book so much. Devil in Winter, which is like one of my favorites and one of my favorite book boyfriends. And so when she made references to Sebastian St. James in this, I just loved it. So all these like little like nerdy, you know, us historical romance or romance readers, we're gonna get these references, and I loved it. It wasn't like throwing in your face like some authors do. And then I also just there were so many sweet, like, beautiful romantic like scenes between them. And I like, he had the butterfly garden. The way that he talked about Clara, he was just like, it was like she brought peace to his life. And it was just like, I highlighted so much shit in this book. I freaking loved it. Like, their first kiss was beautiful. And then you have like the scene in the library that was kind of like the scene in Atonement. If you've ever seen that movie, it was so hot. Like, there's just so many hot scenes. But this was just such a beautiful final book in this series, because you get to kind of see all the couples. It was a perfect epilogue. It was just, it made me feel good. Like, it's a feel-good series, and I hope, like, I don't know if she'll ever come back to it, but I hope she could do, like, the second generation of, like, their kids and stuff. I would love that. But anyways, it was 6 stars, and then 3.5 chilies. It was perfection. Okay, so the next one that I read was Jewel of the Sea. This was for, like, the Kraken, you know, tentacles kind of prompt on the readathon. And I read the first book in this series. This is by Tiffany Roberts. I really liked the first one. This one didn't really hit me. And I'm kind of annoyed because I bought the audiobook. But it was just kind of Like, honestly, I felt like nothing happened in this. Like, the stuff that got set up in the first one, like building this world, introducing everybody, and kind of like the humans and the Kraken and all this stuff was good. And this one, it just felt like we stayed in that place and we never really moved the story past it. And I didn't really care about the romance as much. So this one is between Archon and Amy. Amy was like the friend to the heroine from the first one. And she kind of like met Archon because of like the stuff that ends up happening in the first one when they, I don't want to give that away, but she meets him and she's like really fascinated and intrigued by him. And he keeps like coming to the shore to kind of see her, and he'll give her letters from like her friend because her friend's living with the Kraken. And so then eventually she kind of goes with him because it gets dangerous when these kind of hunter guys are like trying to find out if these Kraken are real and kind of hunt for them. And so, you know, she ends up going off with him. So honestly, like, that's it. Like, not much happens in this, and I was pretty bored. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars, and it was 2 chilies. I wasn't connected to it, and it was kind of a bummer. I did really enjoy the first one, though. I was interested in Randall. He's like a human that was part of those hunters that was trying to, he's like a good one, but he's like trying to stop the crazy ones from hunting them down. And he ends up going with them. So I'm interested to see like his romance. So I'm still interested because I really do love Tiffany Roberts. Okay, then I read Win by Lily Mayne. And if you've seen my channel before, you know I'm trying to get through the Monstrous series. It's one of my favorite series right now. You know, Soul Eater was a 6-star for me, one of my favorite books this year. And this is Win. It's a novella, and it's, I think, 3.5 in the series. And this is Soul Eater. It's Win. And this novella is really cute, beautiful. It's just a continuation of him and Danny's romance. But they go into the monster world. So they go through the tear and go to the monster world because there's kind of like these godlike but big creatures that are in this kind of, I don't even know what you call it. It was like this big castle weird thing. And Win wants to make it so that he can give like half his life to Danny so that Danny can live, they can live together and die together many years. Because obviously, like, Win can live hundreds and hundreds of years. I think thousands, actually. And so he wants to have Danny with him. And so Danny agrees to go do this. So they actually go kind of like on another little road trip, but this time through the monster realm. And I found that really interesting. The way, like, the other monsters would be, like, gawking at Danny. And just they go to, like, these kind of hot springs. And it's just, there's so many sweet moments in this. It's just continuing and showing like the deep love that they have for each other. And I just can't tell you, this monster male romance series is so sweet. Like, so sweet. I love it so much. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars. It is a novella, and it was 4 chilies for me because I feel the connection between Win and Danny. And when they get on, like, it is hot to me. Like, I just freaking love it. Like, love it. So then I read Hollow's Grove. This was a quick novella by, and I always think I said this name wrong, Jacquot. I'm totally wrong on that. I don't know. But I really enjoyed reading their book at the last Novellathon. They had like a group book, and I think it was in this series. It was like around Valentine's Day because these are all like during holidays. And this one is the 4th book in the Holy Night series, and it's between Dorian and Evelyn, and they're kind of enemies to lovers. I mean, really, it's like this guy, he's her best friend's brother. He's older, and he's always been pining for her, but he like couldn't really go there because of their age difference, and he felt weird when they were younger, so he's kind of just tortured her, always scared her and messed with her. And so she has a very like annoying view of him, but really he's just been kind of biding his time. He's pining for her, and they end up doing this Halloween, like it's on Halloween, and it's like a murder mystery party, and they have to help her best friend like do it and everything. And he basically takes that time to show her how much he's into her. And he's also a pleasure dom, so he likes to get the woman off many times before he even gets anything himself. So he kind of shows her what that is. It's a novella. It was fun. It was spicy. So I gave this one 4 stars, and it was 3 chilies. Okay, so then I read Wed to the Orc, and this is by Layla Faye. I needed an orc one, so I picked this one up. It's the 6th book in the Arranged Monsters Mate series. I haven't read any of the other ones, but I actually really enjoyed this. It was a quick novella, and it's between Lundark and I think Ina. And basically it's this kind of, they use your DNA to find the perfect match for you. So it kind of is like a fated mate situation, because they're using your DNA, and then they figure out who would be the perfect mate for you. Some of the humans are kind of hard up, and like she's in a difficult situation. Her family's in debt, and so this is like her way of, you know, dealing with that and kind of being able to support them and whatever. So she gets mated with this orc. He's actually kind of like this grumpy scientist that isn't interested in love, isn't interested in anything. He just needs a mate for mating purposes. And of course, once he sees her, he's full on salivating, and she's his mate, and he can smell her, and he's into it. And he tries to kind of fight it, and she gets annoyed because he's kind of like always in his lab and not really putting out any effort with her. And so she kind of like makes him come to her, which I appreciated, and kind of like earn it. So, and this is obviously an orc, so he's pretty big. And so there were some really funny quotes. I think it even said he was 16 inches, and they had to use like this special oil that would like make her open up to be able to take him, and it just freaking made me laugh. Anyways, so I give this one 4 stars and 3 chilies. It was a good novella. So these are a couple more novellas for the Monster Mash Readathon. I did read The Gargoyles Captive by Katee Robert. I've kind of been having troubles with Katee Robert lately. It's like always hit or miss. Like I either like have a fun time with it, or it's just I don't enjoy it, which you'll see here. I actually enjoyed Gargoyles Captive. I need the gargoyle one. And so this is book number 3 in the Deal with the Demon series. And actually, this heroine, Grace, you actually see her in Katee Roberts' other series where it's like the vampire versus harem thing. She actually made a deal with the demon to help them, but she actually had her own reasons, being that she needed to get to the demon realm because her mother, they are like monster hunters, and her mother went there and never came back and disappeared. So she wants to find her mother. So she ends up getting auctioned off. That you go make a deal and you have to be there for 7 years, and then if you have a kid, they get to keep the kid or whatever. So she ends up getting auctioned off to the gargoyle, and he's had a pretty rough go of it. Nobody wants to be with him. They think he's cursed because his whole family died, and so he needs, a mate and to get an heir and all of that. And she's basically going to try and escape him multiple times. Each time she tries to escape him, he basically catches her, and it's like, every time I have to come catch you, we're gonna F, basically. But she actually kind of churns it and is pretty much a female dom with him, which she was totally cool with. So I really liked it. I think that they kind of open up to each other and have more talks, and so I actually felt their relationship building. So I did enjoy this one. I gave it 4 stars and 3 chilies, and I thought it was decent. I still don't like any of them as much as the first one in this series. I loved the Dragon's Bride one, where he's like a dragon. I loved that one. So then I read The Demon's Bargain, which is book number 5, because I needed a demon one. And I did not like this one. It was so boring. It was Romano, I think, and Lenora, and she is a witch, and she lost like this important artifact kind of thing, an heirloom that is like brings them their power. The guy, like a guy she was having sex with, stole it from her. She needs to get it back. She makes a deal with the demon. They go to this kind of like fair thing. I can't remember what it was. Honestly, it was so boring. I was bored during the sex. I didn't care about the characters. And again, it's hit or miss with Katee Robert. I just don't think she's like the right author for me, maybe. Because I don't know. A lot of her stuff is just pure smut. But that's kind of what you're getting with these novellas. So I ended up giving it 2.5 stars because I was so bored, and it's a short novella. And then 3 chilies because she always does bring the spice. Sorry guys, I'm filming this after work and my voice is just today, so just bear with me. So then I read Luca Vitiello by Cora Reily, and I actually needed to read this because it was like the last book of hers in the Born in Blood series that I needed to read. This is basically Born in Blood 0, it says. I don't really get that because I think you really need to read Arya's first, but whatever. This is basically everything that happens in Bound in Blood by about Arya's and Luca. This is all from Luca's perspective. And I really enjoyed it because I really love Luca. And it was good to see things from his perspective, see what he went through as a kid. You know, you hear all these things about what a badass he is. Like when he crushed the guy's throat, he was called the Vice. You know, how he had like killed when he was like, I think 11 for the first time. So it was kind of cool to see his childhood. You see how fucking evil his father is. And then you get to see how hard he falls for Arya. I forgot how long it took for them to finally have sex. And it was like, God, this is so slow burn. Let's get to it already. I did enjoy that scene because it was so realistic of like, I'm so tired. Oh, and I'm probably going to rant about this same issue later in another book that I'm going to talk about. But I'm so tired of the virgin trope where the virgins have sex the first night and they have sex all night long, or they're all up about it and they're like little hoes now and they just love sex. And it's like, that's not how it is your first time. And it really showed how she was uncomfortable at her and they had to really go slowly and they weren't like banging it out all night. Anyways, I'll probably get on a rant when I talk about an arc I had. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was, I listened to it on audiobook. It is on AnyPlay. I think that whole series is on AnyPlay if you guys want to listen to that. I think I listened to that whole series. So I ended up giving that one 4 stars. I think it's a 3 on the chilies. I kind of forgot to put it here. So I think it's pretty spicy, but it's not really that spicy when you think about how long it takes them to finally have sex. So maybe 2 chilies. Whatever. Anyways, I enjoyed it. Then I read Barbarians Choice by Ruby Dixon. These are my palette cleansers. I love the Ice Planet Barbarians. I'm slowly going through this series. Didn't want to get through it too fast. This is book number 11 in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. This is Murdoch and Farley. Farley is like one of the actual Ice Planet Barbarian women, and she has not been, resonated to anybody, hasn't found her mate yet. And so she's kind of bummed, she's a really beautiful, sweet, sunshiny kind of character. She ends up kind of going out exploring, and there is a ship that kind of has to land for repairs. And that Murdoch is on there. He used to be in like military, but now he works as kind of like their handyman kind of guy on the ship. And he is out there fixing things, and she immediately resonates to him. And so they really hit it off, but it's this whole thing of like him like having his PTSD or issues with war where he was like left behind. He doesn't want to be left behind. And so he doesn't know if he can live on this planet that like has no technology or anything, because they realize they're like the same, like, species kind of thing, but like they're living primitively. How did they get here? So it's a lot of interesting stuff about like them deciding like if they want to take them with them. And they don't really want to go. They want to stay on their planet. So that's kind of the choice that comes in. Is he going to stay, or is Farley going to have to go with him? So I really liked it. It was cute. It was 4 stars and like 2.5 on the chilies. It's nothing amazing, but these are just sweet, cute little short reads for me, and I always love them. Okay, so now on to the arc that I'm probably going to rant about, even though I did enjoy it. I read The Underboss by Piper Stone. I've never read anything by this author before, and here's another case of it's book number 3 in a series, and I'm just now reading it. This one didn't hurt that I didn't read the other ones. Honestly, I don't think it really hurts it at all, so that wasn't the issue. This is a mafia romance. You basically have Francesco. He is the underboss. His father was actually like the Don of the mafia family, but he kind of needed to grow up. So his godfather basically kind of stepped up. His godfather, I believe, is married to his sister. Yeah, to his sister. And so he kind of has been running the mafia, and they also have like legitimate businesses and stuff like that. So he's the underboss, and he's, being groomed to take over for that Don. And he basically has a run-in with Christiana. Christiana is in New York like for an event. Her father has always pretended like he loved her. Her mother died, and she's like been with her father. He basically takes her randomly out to the middle of nowhere on her birthday. I believe she was turning 18. And basically lets her know, you're going to be marrying this old gross guy, and you're going to do it for me. And she kind of fights back on that, and he kind of beats on her, and she runs away that night, kind of gets away, and she almost gets hit by Francesco's car. So he almost runs into her. She basically goes in the car with him, and she kind of like asks for a night of passion. She wants to basically take her virginity and be a ruined woman, because that's what this man wants for this marriage, is she needs to be untouched. So that's kind of her plan there. And then they end up having this one night stand. So this is my problem with the virgin thing, because they have sex. She's a virgin. He didn't know she was at first, so he was rough. Then he realized, and he feels so honored, and he's so into it. This is like very insta-lust. Like, they are like insta-lust insane, which is fine for a one-night stand. But they literally have sex the entire fucking night when she's a virgin. And he does anal with her too. So for her first time having sex, she's a virgin. She's going to have sex in all these different locations, different positions, just be fiending for it. And then you're going to do butt stuff too? No freaking way. I call BS. And I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the unrealistic virgin churned like horny girl that like can't get enough. It's so like she would be not able to move. And your first time having sex, you're not going to go right to the butt stuff. I'm sorry. You're not. Anyways, that drove me nuts. Then the other thing that drove me nuts is they end up getting separated. She goes her way. He's in the middle of a war, so he doesn't want, her to get involved. And then it's like a few years pass by. He's been searching for her because he's so in love with her. And then she had told him at the end of their one night stand that she was in love with him. I'm like, love? After one night of like basically fucking? Like, you're in love. I took it to a whole other level of like insta love. I just couldn't get through that. And then they were kind of separated most of the book, going through like their own dramas. She ends up getting thrown into another arranged marriage where her dad like freaking kidnaps her and is like forcing her to marry, who ends up being the underboss, Francesco's enemy that he's been at war with. So now she kind of comes back in his orbit again, and now he's not going to let her go. So I did like the mafia stuff. It had a lot of stuff like going on in the mafia world, political, like intrigue, all this kind of stuff. It was so insta love. Like, you don't fall in love with somebody from a one night stand. And that was like my main hang up. I still really enjoyed it. And so I rated it higher because it is an arc. So I did end up giving it 4 stars, and it was 3 chilies. Because honestly, like, it was a lot of sex in that. Like, it was chapters and chapters of sex for that one night stand. And then they're like not together for most of the book. So I did still enjoy it though. And I did like the author's writing. It really sucked me in. I read it really fast. So I still enjoyed the book. Okay, I got to get through these last few here quickly because I'm already talking too long. This is 20 books. So sorry, this is going to be a long video. Okay, so then I finally read the Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. I'm slowly going to try and go through the Bridgerton series because I'm probably one of the only people out there who haven't read it. I will be posting my vlog soon, but I'm really behind. I have quite a few vlogs that I filmed and have not posted. It's been hectic. So I read that. It is between Anthony and Kate. I'm sure you know all about it. It's kind of like enemies to lovers. He's like kind of like the player rake, but he needs to get married now. And so he just randomly decides on Kate's sister because she's kind of like the belle of the season. And Kate does not want her sister marrying this rake. And so she tries to like kind of put a stop to it. They have amazing banter. They get to know each other. I love it in historical romances when there's like like a house party that they're all staying at the house and they're all in confined quarters together. And so it kind of forces them to get to know each other. And she realizes Anthony isn't as bad as she like made him out to be. And that's what I liked, is they had really good, deep conversations about like their childhood and traumas and stuff. And so you actually believe them falling for each other. But Anthony does not want to fall in love. And so they end up getting caught in a compromising situation. They're going to be the ones that have to get married. But he doesn't want to fall in love. So that was my only thing that kind of docked a star for me, was his reason for not wanting to fall in love just kind of seems stupid to me. But that's just me. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. I think it's like a 2 star on the Chili's. And I enjoyed it a lot more than the first one, which I think I gave that one like 2 stars. So then I read Come With Me by Brooke Montgomery. That is a novella. It's an introduction to her Sugarland Creek series. And I'm really excited to read the first book. I just couldn't get to it yet for my schedule and TBR. But this is basically like 0.5. It's an intro novella. It is between Aiden and Lainey. This is like a second chance, secret baby kind of novella. They were childhood sweethearts. They were in love, but he had to get out of town because of his abusive father. And so he basically picks up and leaves and starts over and kind of ghosts them. They don't have any communication. But after he left, she was pregnant. So she couldn't find him for years. So that's why I was okay with this secret baby thing, because she tried to find him for a long time because he was kind of hiding where he was at from his father. So she finally finds where he's at and is able to kind of she goes to the ranch that he works at and kind of lets him know, you know, you have a daughter. And I loved it because he really was open and not negative in any way when he finds out that he has a daughter, and he just wants to be a part of her life and he wants them to be a family. And so they're trying to figure out this long distance thing. What are they going to do? And so it was really sweet. The only reason I docked a star on this one is because I thought the father like drama at the end was just so over the top. So it was just a little unbelievable. I feel like small town always does this. They got to make some like, either it's a stalker or a crazy killer, or some like over suspenseful thing that they always add in. And I didn't really think it needed it for this book. So I kind of docked a star for that. But I gave it 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it. And it was 2.5 on the Chili's. Okay, let me get a drink here because I got to talk about Hopeless. Okay. I read Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is one of my most anticipated releases for this month. And it was Beau. He was the brother that actually... it's kind of like it's like the Canada's version of like Rangers or Navy SEALs. And he had been wounded and went through a trauma overseas in like one of the previous books. So now he's at home and he's not able to be a soldier anymore. So he's kind of having a hard time. So I was really interested and excited for Beau's romance. This just lacked a lot for me. I had quite a few issues with it, but I still thought it was good because I love Elsie, but it was pretty disappointing. It ends up being like a fake fiance thing. So he's struggling. He doesn't want to work at the ranch where like he's working for Cade, and he like hates it. And he basically like ditches Cade and will kind of like escape to this bar. And Bailey is kind of like the town outcast because she is a little sister to the Jansen brothers, and they're like these shits that the town hates. So she actually can't get a job. She works at the bar, but she can't get a job anywhere else. Nobody will hire her because of her name. And so they kind of like spark this friendship from him going to the bar. He's very protective over her, ends up staying there till she closes so she's not walking out alone. Her brothers live like right next to the Eaton Ranch, and so she lives like on the trailer outside because she doesn't want to be with her brothers. And she ends up going like onto their property to like swim in the river, and so they kind of have an interaction there, and he finds out everything that's going on with her having a hard time getting a job. So he says, let's be fake fiance, fake engaged. and my name will help you, get your name out, get, a better reputation, and you can have better standing and be able to get a job. And that way she can move because she wants out of this town where they treat her like crap. It kind of felt like a very flimsy, weak reason for the fake engagement. I would have rather, if it was a fake engagement, it was like because he was protecting her from her brothers or something like that. Because his name does not help her. The town still hates her. Even more so when they're like fake, like engaged, because they think that she's not good enough for him. And so it just didn't make sense to me. My main issue with this, though, is that it was so slow. It's like 400 something pages. And the first half of this book, the pacing was so off. It dragged on and on and on. And I get she's trying to do a slow burn, but this book could have been 100 pages less. And the pacing could have been better. So, like, I was pretty bored by the time they finally, and it takes a long time for them to fully have sex. And I was just kind of like, oh my God. And then the ending was just very rushed. So I just had some issues with the pacing. It didn't flow as well to me. Still seeing Kate and Willa from Heartless. They're my favorite couple, and Willa is my ride or die. She is amazing. I loved her in this book. So it's like I still have the nostalgic feeling for seeing the other characters, and this is the final book in that series. So I still have love for this series, and I still have love, for Elsie. So it just didn't fully hit for me where it's going to be like a 5-star. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I gave it 3 chilies because once they do get sexual, it gets hot. The other issue that I have is he has major PTSD, waking up in nightmares. He has phantom pain on his feet because, his feet were heavily burned. He's had skin grafts, but he does not go to therapy. And in fact, it's like actively talked about how that he refuses to do therapy. And it's like, so this girl is going to magically like come into your life and fix these problems. Like, no, I think mental health, and especially with PTSD, it is so important to be actively like promoting therapy in a book. Like, we need to be doing that, not saying no therapy, because I get a lot of men won't do that. But with how bad PTSD is and mental health can get you in a really bad place, like we need to be promoting how important therapy is for mental health. That's just me. So I didn't like that. I love it when a book really like shows therapy and how important it is. So those are kind of my hangups on that. So I'm sorry if I was a downer because I do love this series, but it just missed the mark. Okay, we made it to the last book. I'm so sorry. This is such a long video. But I read Black Knight by Rena Kent. I'm doing a vlog for that as well. Because I am slowly trying to read her backlist to get to her current books because it's the second generation characters. So I went back to the Royal Elites, and this is book number 4. And this is between Xander and Kimberly. And I didn't think I was going to like this book because we saw in the first 3 books how much he bullied Kimberly, who's like a plus size curvy heroine. And I really hated that and got angry at his character. And so, but I really love this book. But I have to say, please check your triggers. This book was so emotional because it dealt with such heavy issues, like such dark content. And a lot of that is very triggering. So I'm going to bring up the triggers at the end. But be aware they are spoilery, but I'm going to bring them up because it's so important. I don't want you to read this if something like this is going to trigger you. Because we have Kimberly. She is plus size. She's curvy. She did go away for a bit and lose a bunch of weight, but she still gets bullied for being bigger. Xander was her childhood friend that turned enemy, that turned bully. She supposedly betrayed him when they were younger, and so he hates her and he won't ever forgive her. There is more to that of why he hates her than just the generic thing she thinks. But he's basically fighting and pushing her away most of this book. And she has an eating disorder. She also cuts. So these are some of those triggers. So she is going through a lot. She is a very abusive mother that makes her weigh herself in front of her and is forcing her to keep losing weight. It's just very sad. And then on top of that, she has all this stuff going on with Xander kind of bullying her, and she like doesn't know what to do. So it's this push-pull between them, and Xander's fine. And Xander is also an alcoholic. He's drowning himself in alcohol to numb all his issues and what's going on with him. So it is heavy. I mean, these guys are like 18 years old and they're already having all these issues. But I really connected to Kimberly's character on a deep level, and it broke my heart. It was very emotional. So the trigger warnings are obviously the eating disorder. She is making herself throw up. She binges and purges. She does cutting, self-harm. She has body image issues. And then there is an attempted suicide on here on page. Alcoholism, and then severe emotional abuse by a parent. So there is a lot of shit in this book. So just please be careful if those are triggering for you. I know it's so hard for some people to read about like cutting or, eating disorders. So just be prepared. But I gave it 5 stars because it really hit me emotionally, and it like was very, I think Rena Kent handled it in a good way. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to continue on with this series, but we'll see how it goes. So let's stop this video because I've been going on and on and on. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you made it to the end. But as always, please remember to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. It helps. And I love hearing from you guys. So I will see you on the next one.